Whew. Palantir just signed another major contract with the US government. Very exciting. They signed a major contract with the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, and everyone says Palantir can't be $1 trillion company. It's overvalued. They say that it shouldn't be as high as it is right now because they do too much business with the government. But time and time again, they keep signing more and more contracts with the government. So in today's video, we're going to go over everything going on with Palantir. We're first going to talk about this new contract. After that, we're going to go over 3 contracts that they have signed, totaling over $150 million within the last month, within the last 30 days alone. And at the end, we're going to go over, I don't want to be all gun-ho, all just so for Palantir. I do like it, but we're going to go over 3 problems and potential problems that bearish investors see about Palantir, what I think about them, and how Palantir can potentially reach a $1 trillion market cap. Timestamps will be down below like always. And if you can, please be sure to like the video, subscribe, and if you don't already have the public.com investing app, make sure to go ahead and follow me on that. You can buy stocks, sell stocks, and see exactly what I'm buying and selling in real time, as well as a full portfolio breakdown. Think of it like an investing app combined with social media. It is completely free to follow me. Use the code Michael when you sign up, and you'll get up to $50 in a free stock. But anyways, right now, Palantir just won a massive contract with the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, to provide a data analytics tool to enhance the agency's modernization objectives for aviation safety. Everyone is always talking about Palantir, saying how it's overvalued, it's not worth as much as it is right now because they have too many government contracts, not enough room to grow. My opinion, I think government contracts are a great thing for Palantir long term because look, it's like, first of all, a stamp of approval saying, look, we do business with the government has vetted us, they trust us, and if they trust us, well then you can trust us. That's the first thing. Second thing is the government isn't going to be continuing to switch what companies handle their data. So if Palantir can continue to increase its market share in government data revenue, well then they'll continue to grow moving forward. And the third thing is right now, Palantir, in terms of government contracts, it's not like they just work with one administration, like just with the Federal Aviation Administration. No, they've worked with the Air Force, they've worked with the FDA, they've worked with so many parts of the government, and they're continuing to grow this market share. But anyways, right now Palantir did sign this major contract. It includes about it's worth around $18.4 million right now, and it includes an additional 2 years. This contract is for only 1 year for Palantir to assist with the FAA's certification and continued operational safety activities, including the ongoing monitoring of the 737 MAX fleet and its return to service. So it's for 1 year, but there's an option to increase this for 2 additional years if they like it. And what we've seen is Palantir usually gets these contract extensions with the US government. In addition to this, right now, Palantir's Foundry, this software, is a very important part of this partnership. With FAA aerospace engineers and analysts, they're going to be able to use Foundry software to be able to efficiently and speedily monitor, analyze, visualize, and share aviation safety data, which is vital to determine if an incident presents a past or future safety risk. Palantir is all about safety, all about, using data to improve companies, to improve the government, to make sure things are safer. We've seen this with Palantir's partnership with the UK distributing vaccines. We've seen this with Palantir partnering with IBM and 3M. They've partnered with so many companies to help improve the business and improve safety, efficiency, scalability, everything that you want as a company. If you want to improve it, you got to look at the data. Palantir does that. So this is a major, major contract. In addition to this, the other thing that they just recently had was with their 3 contracts within the last 30 days. The first one I want to go over quickly is what is going on with Palantir and their $7.4 million contract renewal with the CDC for disease monitoring and outbreak response. Major contract here. A lot of this has to do with the pandemic. And the exciting thing about this is that everyone says, Palantir government contracts, no good. But we're seeing they get a renewal, $7.4 million. In addition to this, within the last 30 days, they got an $111 million contract with the U.S. Special Ops. So very exciting here. And it's another contract where the government is continuing to generate more revenue for Palantir. Palantir is only projected to do about $1.5 billion in revenue, and we're seeing the last month they just secured $150 million. The third one within the last month was with the Space Force. They expanded the partnership, another extension, another renewal of a contract with a government organization. So for everyone out there saying, you know what, Palantir government contracts aren't good, this, in my opinion, proves otherwise, because we're seeing time and time time again that the government is renewing contracts with Palantir. They renewed one with the CDC. They renewed one with the Space Force. Palantir keeps renewing these contracts. In addition to this, they also just got a major patent for mapping geotagged data. And according to the filing, according to this patent, it explains how this mapping system comprises processes and logic for creating a geotag for structured data. And the important part with this is that a user can more quickly and easily create structured geotag data that can be accomplished using typical approaches requiring the user to manually enter geographic coordinates. So it just makes it faster, easier to geotag data. So that's what's going on with Palantir's new contract with the FAA. Their three previous contracts within the last month from other government organizations, and everyone says they're too heavily dominant on the government, and I get that. So now we're going to go over three things going on, three potential issues with Palantir stock that some people are not so happy about, and people are saying to avoid Palantir, because I don't want to just be all, pro Palantir. I do love it, but we always got to look at both sides of the story. There's always two sides to it. So reason one why bears are saying, sell Palantir, is they're saying that long sales cycle and lack of scalability options are limiting the upside of Palantir. They said right now a big downside for Palantir is that their business model really it only caters towards some of the bigger customers. It only caters towards longer term contracts, and that means there's not as many opportunities to increase prices, generate more revenue. And the other thing they say is that the downside is that Palantir only has a limited number of customers. They have less than 200 customers. So if one customer were to, let's say, leave, even if one of them were to leave, that would be significant in terms of a revenue reduction and their bottom line for Palantir and their growth rate. So, okay, let's talk about that. Right now, they're talking about Palantir and essentially having few customers in their business model. The first thing to keep in mind with this is that Palantir has recently changed their business model up. They've changed the business model up, so they're shifting away from longer term contracts. This has been an issue for a while. They realized that, look, you know what? We want to expand our business. We want to grow. And yes, government organizations can pay millions of dollars up front because the average contract size for Palantir is around $7 million. But some of the smaller organizations, other Fortune 500 companies, can't afford to pay that. So this is something that they are already working on and already fixing. They've already switched the business model up to switch away from these longer term contracts with as much money up front and to a more recurring revenue model that allows for smaller players to get in. So in my opinion, I think that one they are working on, and they've already sort of solved that issue. This other thing is with having very few customers. This analyst is saying how right now Palantir has less than 200 customers, and if one leaves, it would be a significant hit to their revenue. And okay, looking at this realistically with unbiased, it makes sense. If you have very few customers, you can't afford to lose as many. Like if you lose one, it's a big deal. I get that. I completely understand where they're coming from. But the thing is right now, most of their customers come from the government. So if Palantir did lose government contracts, that would be a big deal. If they lost, let's say, doing business with the government altogether, of course, Palantir would be in a terrible position. But that's not the case. Palantir has already been vetted by the government. They've already been approved to do work with the government. And now it's much easier for them to actually get contracts with the government because they've already worked with other individual organizations. So yes, I think this is a case that you would have to be worried about if they had a lot of different commercial clients that are very large. But since a majority of their revenue comes from the government, I don't think we have to worry about this as much, just because I feel like we're pretty secure with Palantir working with the government. Every couple of weeks, we see them sign new contracts. So I feel like we're pretty good on that front, but it is a risk. The main risk for that would be if the government stopped doing business with Palantir. It doesn't matter if a commercial business stops, because right now, majority of their revenue is with the government. So I do understand that, but I don't think it is too much of a risk right now. The next thing that they talk about with Palantir is that they're saying that Palantir has an excessive stock-based compensation program for their executives. In Q1, Palantir's stock-based compensation expense stood at $193 million. And they also said how right now, another unfriendly practice to shareholders is that insiders are continuing to sell shares. We've seen insiders sell off large portions of their position ever since Palantir had its IPO. And this is something that people have been concerned about quite a bit. And this is nothing, we can't undermine this. This is something that is a concern, and there's no way to get around it. They do have very high stock compensation expenses, and they also do have a lot of insiders who have been selling off recently. This has slowed down in terms of insiders selling off recently, but it's still there. We're still seeing them do this. But in my opinion, I think the reason we're seeing insiders sell off a lot of shares is because they get paid so much in stock compensation programs. So this is like a dual issue right here. We see that because they're getting paid a lot, well then that's why, because they're getting paid a lot from stock compensation versus a salary, that's why they're selling off their shares. So for example, if this was a little lower, the top part right here, if they did get paid a little less in stock compensation, we wouldn't have this other issue. So they're really linked together. It's not like they're two separate issues. It's really one issue. If they weren't paid as much in stock compensation, we wouldn't have that other issue. But on the flip side of that, I think it's good. I think it's good that we actually are seeing them get paid a lot in stock compensation, because it means that they're going to work that much harder to have the company succeed, that much harder to grow the company, because they know their pay is tied directly to the performance of the company. I like that. I get that it's a lot of money in stock compensation, but especially for a growing company, I think it's important to have people and the executives, their intentions, their goals aligned with the financials of the company. And this is a great way to do that. Third thing is with valuation. They are consistently saying that Palantir is overvalued. They only have government contracts. They don't do business with outside organizations and commercial businesses. So they're overvalued. However, that being said, right now, when we look at Palantir, just on their website, this doesn't even include everything, but when we look at their website, Palantir, within the last 6 months, since the start of the year, they have secured a number of major contracts outside of the government. The first one was Palantir and Faurecia. They embark on a long-term strategic partnership. In addition to this, they've partnered with 3M. They've partnered with IBM as well. So 3M right here, Palantir and 3M expand relationship to build dynamic supply chain. This got Palantir more salespeople helping to distribute their product. This was a very big partnership as well. In addition to this, Palantir and Aiken Group collaborate on legal digital service platform. We've seen Palantir Technologies and Rio Tinto sign a multi-year partnership, and these are not government organizations. All of these are like commercial businesses. IBM is massive. We see that 3M is a massive business, and all of these are continuing to grow Palantir's business outside of just government contracts. You can see right here, Palantir and IBM, it just flashed across the screen. But either way, right now, I am very bullish on Palantir. I think that a couple of the risks and a couple of things that people are concerned about with Palantir are with the government contracts, like I continue to say. But in my opinion, you know what? Government contracts are a good thing, stamp of approval. And for people who say it's going to limit growth, the thing to remember is that the government spends more and more money every year on defense. The Department of Defense spends a lot of money every single year on data and, data analytics. And Palantir continuing to grow that portion of their business is very important. They have so much room to grow because right now their revenue only makes up like 10 basis points of the total US defense spending budget. So if they're able to increase this over time, they're able to get this up to 20-30% eventually within, a couple of years, 10, 15 years, well then Palantir is in a great position to secure a large portion of US government revenues, and also to grow their other business, which is their Gotham software as well. And if they're able to do this, I think they definitely could be a $1 trillion company competing with the likes of Microsoft down the road. It's just a matter of time. We have to wait and see how it all plays out. But if Palantir can continue to grow at the rate they are with government contracts and with their commercial business, they are on a great track to continue to, grow their revenue very rapidly, gain more customers, and expand partnerships they already have. So let me know what you guys think of this, but I am very bullish on Palantir. I really like the company a lot. I understand the issues with it, which we did talk about today, but many of these I think are misunderstood, misrepresented, and don't necessarily take into account all of the angles, all the details going on with the company. So let me know what you think, but I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you in the next episode.